Hi viewers, thanks for watching my other videos. I am here again with a very short learning video on VBA. Today I'm going to cover loop. I'm not going to repeat what we did in our previous lecture or previous video. You can find those videos in my YouTube channel. We are going to use the same data as we used in our previous video, and but what we will do, we will not run the previous code just to save our time. We are going to see the for loop, the syntax of the for loop, how it works and how we can control the rows and columns using the for loop, and then we will apply the loop to this sales agent report and see how we can use this loop to make this raw data in more informative format. So before building the code in Visual Basic Editor, let's see how the syntax of the loops look like, and then we will come back to the spreadsheet to see some more practical examples. Loops, as I told earlier, as I said, is a very important feature, and you will be dealing with loops more than many times while working on VBA, because obviously Excel is a combination of rows and columns, and to move between rows and columns, loops will become handy. You need instruction to repeat multiple time, or to repeat until a certain condition satisfied. That's where the loops will become very important in every programming language. The loops are a common feature. It might have the same name or a different name, a small different syntax, but the concept and the purpose of the loops remains the same, and you will see these loops in all other languages. What we are going to do, we are going to cover the for loop, do while loop and do until loop in this tutorial, but for this one I'm going to cover only the for loop. We will see the syntax of the for loop, how it looks like, how it operates, and then we will apply that syntax to for an example in Excel, and we see how in practical terms it works, and then the data we are using for our tutorial, the data that we are building our code on, we will apply that loop onto that data. The data will remain the same. I have used the same data in our previous videos where we used the username property and another property to display the manager's name. If you have not aware of that, please you can find those videos in my YouTube channel. For the syntax of the loop, this is how this for loop looks like. For loop is also called a counter loop, because we know the number of repetition all the time. We know how many times we want to run a particular statement or instruction. If I open my laser pointer over here, this is where the loop starts, and this is where the loop either ends or goes to the next number, and this is what that is just keep repeating until this condition is satisfied. This is what loops mean. These three lines will keep looping until this condition is satisfied. For this one, this statement will run 5 times, because we have the loop starting from 1 and going all the way up to 5. So if I just take the pointer off, at the very first stage, what is the value in this counter number? This counter is a variable, and you can have any name over here: row number, column number, A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, whatever you want to use the counter number. And you can also decide the initial number over here as well. This is the initial number and this is the final number. So we are starting from counter 1 to 5. Every time this variable, this counter, whatever your name is, will be increased by 1. So at very first point, what is the value in the counter? The value in one counter is 1. What will happen? For example, this is our computer screen, this is our monitor. this line will be printed on screen. This is for loop counter number. This is in quotation marks printed as it is, plus this counter. This counter is variable from here. So wherever we display this counter will be replaced by whatever the value in this counter at that moment of time is. Okay, so what will happen now? After running this line, after executing this line, the loop will reach at this point. It will see if this counter value is 5. No, the counter value is not 5. So what will happen? It will go again to the starting point over here. Now the counter value will be increased by 1, and at this point again, what is the counter value? The counter value is 2. What will be printed on the screen? This is for loop counter number 2, because the counter value is 2 now over here. Again, see, this is looping, and now again we reached at this point. Is the counter value equal to 5? No, the counter value is equal to 2. What will happen? It will go again at the beginning of the loop over here. Now the counter is increased by 1 again. When we reach at this point, now the counter value is 3. This is the third loop, and what will be printed on the screen? This is for loop counter number 3, and again it will go to the next counter, and then next counter, and all the way up to the 5. See, this is counter value 5 now. So what will happen then? When it reaches the counter value 5, at this point it will not go to the beginning of the loop, rather it will end the loop over here. So how many times this line runs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. This line ran for 5 times. This is how the loop works. These 3 lines will keep looping until this condition satisfied means. But in this one, this is a counter loop, so we know the number of times this loop will repeat this line. This is 5 times. You can have 1 to 10, you can have 1 to 50, you can have 1 to 100, or you can have these numbers based on the row numbers or the column numbers. We will see that in example shortly, that how this is very important loop, because sometimes you need to find out the last row and the last column depending the amount of data you are receiving. It's not fixed every time, every month, every week, every day. It's different, so you may need to run this loop different times every time. So we will see those examples shortly in the coming videos, in the coming tutorial. So let's see how this loop actually works in Visual Basic, and how we can use this loop to control the rows and the columns. Let's see an example. So let's see how the loop works. I'm going to add another worksheet over here, and today we are just going to learn the syntax and how we control the rows and columns with the loops. So let's see, why do we loop anyway? Just remember, we do not have anything in this code over here, or I can simply delete just to make it easier for you. So we have only this area to work at present. There is no other code we are going to run from this code here. Why do we need loops? For example, I want to write number 1 to 10 in these 10 rows, column 1 over here, and I'm using Visual Basic. What we can do, sheet 1 dot cells row 1 and column 1 means A is equal to, for example, 1. Okay, that's it, or just say 1. Okay, now we are going to copy and paste. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Good. Now we have to change the rows. 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, then 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and then 10. Okay, let's run the code. Let's see what happened. Run the code. Okay, what happened? Nothing has happened. Let's go to Visual Basic again. Okay, so what we did actually, instead of using okay, so okay, now we have a clean area to work with. Remember, we are not using. Now we have a very clean area to work with, and again workbook level and opening event. Let's use this worksheet 2 to put number 1 2 3 4 and all the way up to 10 using Visual Basic. Okay, we are going to Visual Basic sheet. Remember, the sheet 2 is sheet 4 here. Yes, sheet 2 is the name, but that sheet is actually sheet 4. We are going to use sheet 4 dot cells, row 1 and column 1, that is A, is equal to 1. Okay, good. And we are going to write all the way from 1 to 10. We need 10 lines. 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. This is just copy pasting. Control C, Control V. And now we are going to change the row. This is row 2, this is row 3, this is row 4, this is row 5, this is row 6, this is row 7, this is row 8, this is row 9, and then row 10. And we need 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, now let's see, are we able to display these numbers in those rows? Okay, just run the row code, and now let's see. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. If I delete these numbers, go to Visual Basic again and run the code again, see, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Simple, no problem. But is it an acceptable way of using Visual Basic to populate the cell? No, this is not. This is a very simple example. There are hundreds and thousands of rows and cells, and if you are start using this manual way of filling in the data, the purpose of the VBA is being died already. Then what we are going to use, we are going to use loop. A loop will do the same thing but in rather efficient way and more time saving way. So for example, we are going to use the for loop. To learn the syntax of the for loop is for counter, counter is equal to 1 to 10 and next counter. So this counter is the variable name, and this loop is also called a counter loop, also called a counter loop, mostly used where we want to run the instructions for fixed numbers of time. Okay, that's fine. So we are this variable name is, I am using counter. You can use A, you can use B, you can use C, you can use row number, you can use column number, whatever variable you want to use you can use over here. And this is the simple syntax of the loop. This is the very first state. This is the start of the loop. The initial value is 1. What will be in these two lines will be repeated. Then this is the next counter, means from here then the system will go back to the first line again. Now it will, the counter value will be 2. This line is adding 1 to the counter value, to the counter. So simply this is, if this is 1, when it reaches over here and will be pushed back to the first line, it will be 2 again, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all the way up to the 10. What we are going to display, we are going to display sheet 4, sorry, dot cells, and then now what we have done over here, we use the fixed column number. Column number is fixed, that is 1, but the row is variable, so the row is changing over here. So what we are going to use, we are going to control the rows with the for loop, and we are going to leave the column number as fixed, and we are displaying number 1 to 10. Okay, see counter. So what is happening over here, for counter 1 is equal counter is equal to 1 to 10. Initial value of the counter is 1, so it means row 1, and it will populate that cell 1 and column 1 with the counter value. The counter value is 1. Now it will go to the next counter. Next counter mean it will add 1 to the variable over here. The system will move to the initial line again, and then again over here. This time the counter value is 2. The row will change automatically to 2, and the counter displayed will be 2. Okay, and this will repeat it 10 times. This row will repeat it 10 times. Every time the row is repeated, the counter value is changed from 1 to 2, and from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4, and 4 to 5, and all the way up to the 10. Let's see if this is happening. So we are not going to use these. I'm going to delete these lines. We have done those 10 lines in these 3 lines. Let's see if this is working. Go to Excel, delete this line, go to Visual Basic again, and run. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. The same thing, but using a for loop. That was done in 10 lines. This is done in 3 lines and more efficient way. Now for example, if instead of filling these rows, you want to fill this 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 in the columns. Okay, let's see, delete this over here, go to Visual Basic, and now this time you are fixing the row, that is 1, and you are changing the column. Again we used that counter over here, that value, to replicate the column value. Okay, now let's see if we can run the loop over here. See, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Simple, very straightforward thing, not very difficult, and much more time saving and efficient way of moving between rows and columns. Now let's see if we want to do something like this. We want to populate 10 rows and 10 columns with 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and repeating. Okay, so now let's see if we can do this. Remember, our target is to achieve this thing: 10 rows, 10 columns and from number 1 to 10. Okay, and we are going to use loops. Go to Visual Basic. Okay, we already have one loop. That is, if I run this loop, what will happen? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 in row 1. Now let's go to row 2. Go to Visual Basic. I'm going to again copy this over here. Again, I'm going to fix the row 2 to 2, and counter again has started from 1, and then we'll go all the way up to 10. Okay, let's see 10. What we are doing, we are just changing the row number over here, and we are controlling the column with the help of loop. So with the help of loop, we are moving one column each at each repetition, but a row is fixed. Okay, now let's see number 3. I'm not going to go all the way up to 5. The purpose is just to show how we can use a different style of loop to control this thing. So this is row 3, and this is row 4. How many rows do we have? So 1 2 3 4. Okay, let's go for one more. 5. Okay, we have 5 for loops to fill 5 rows with 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Let's see if this is working. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. 5 rows, 10 columns, and we can go obviously all the way up to 10 using the same method. But again, the purpose of doing this in this way is to show that we can use a loop in a different way, in different style. That is what we call a nesting loop, a loop inside a loop. So just delete everything from here. See, we are not going to use 10 for loops to do that. We are going to use another technique called nesting loop. So for this thing, it would be good if we can change the variable name in more understandable way. So this is the row number, and this is the column number 1 2 10, and the data will remain the same. We just need to do a slight tweak to it. So this is the row number. This time we are going to control both rows and columns with the loops. What we have done previously, we have used either rows or column with the loop. One of the number was constant, but this time both number will be changing with the loops. See, now this loop is to control the row number, and this loop is to control the column number. And if I just run this loop manually 1 or 2 times, for example, just to add a comment, as I normally do, this is called nested loop. Yes, just to explain, the value in row is 1 and the value in column is 1. So cells 1 column 1 filled with this number, but this loop will run 10 times. Row number will remain the same, column number will keep changing every time this loop repeats. So this will be repeated 10 times. Row 1 column 1 value, row 1 column 2 value, row 1 column 3 value. When it reaches 10, it will come out of the loop and reach is at this point where it will get back to the first point. This time the row number will be increased by 1. So now the row number value in the row number variable is 2. So it means it will go to row 2, and again the column number will run from 1 to 10. So row 2 column 1 value, row 2 column 2 value, row 3 column 3 value, and it will be done 10 times for 10 rows, and every time for every row it will do it for 10 columns. Yes, so let's see if this code is working. If I play this code, something happened. Let's see. Okay, yes, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 and then 10. See, that is how for loop works. Obviously this is a very simple example. You are not going to you fill this from 1 to 10 or from, uh, this is just to make things easier for you to understand. There are much more complicated scenario in real world, but how for loop operates, this is just an example for that thing. Now what will we do in the next video? We are going to apply the for loop to this sales agent report and to see if we can make this raw data into more understandable and readable format. Remember, this is just a same data we have used in our previous videos. We are just building our knowledge and code on the same data every video. So at the end of few videos we will see this database in more understandable and readable format and more controllable format. At present what we are doing, we are have not used any of the technical features. We are just using workbook level and coding at the one event, that is the opening event. Means whenever the workbook opens, this will happen, but we would rather like to control it, because as when we want to do to happen something at that point, that code or macro should run. So hope you have learned something, and there is a slide uh, just end of this video that explain the for loop once more and its syntax. Please go through that again, and if you are not sure, you can write a comment or you can inbox me to understand it in more detail. Thanks for watching. Thank you.